Uh, Only because I'm going to tell a story that, out of context, can be a little challenging. But I'm going to do my best anyways here. So, when I was, Steve asked if I'd be interested in talking to this group. And from the beginning of the main, or the idea of this main shop talk, and like the concept of it, real conversations, no fluff, and in kind of an open forum, I was excited about it. I could see a real benefit for individuals within the Maine manufacturing community, and anything that touches manufacturing in Maine, and a chance to have some conversations that we might not normally have, because we are in context all the time with our businesses, and thinking about that. And, with that mindset, I got thinking more about something that I think is really, well, it's really important to me. And I think it's really important to a lot more folks than just me. I know it is for a fact. But it doesn't get talked about a lot. And I've been in manufacturing since I was like 19, like officially. And I'm 42 now, just turned 42. So I've got a few decades in this, and it's not a lot of talk about mental health in manufacturing. And with that, I personally have a story that is not obvious. And I say it's not obvious just because I've tested it over the years. And people, if I give little pieces of my story, folks are pretty surprised. And I think that's an opportunity. So I want to talk about manufacturing and mental health, and specifically how manufacturing saved my life. And there's going to be a warning up front here. I'm going to talk about mental health for one. I'm going to talk about substance abuse, and I'm also going to talk about suicide. I'm not going to go into any detail specifically about those, but just forewarning, those will be part of this conversation. And I do see it as a conversation. So if anybody wants to, have something to say, or, get in there, or I'm totally open. You can ask me anything when I'm finished, or so-called finished in this. But yeah, just open forum is cool. So, how did manufacturing save my life? When we think about manufacturing saves lives every day, via the tools and equipment of modern medicine. Like, that's undeniable. Like, we make things that save people's lives. They physically save people's lives. But manufacturing saved my life in a much different way. I think not a typical way, or at least one that's not talked about. I usually tell this story in pieces. I never really fully connect this story into a complete picture of what manufacturing in Maine means to me. And I always kind of leave out some details by choice. I talked to Steve earlier about this, and I wanted to let him know what I had for planned and make sure that it was appropriate. And he gave me a rating of a PG, please. And I was like, don't worry. But I usually do this story in a G rating, and I leave out some key components in this. But I'd like to tell the whole story today, or at least a storyline. So I grew up in a small town in central Maine, Vassaboro. A lot of people know it because the police academy is there. And then the Lombard log hauler was invented there. Steam log hauler is pretty cool. And I grew up in manufacturing. My father had built a manufacturing facility on Cross Hill Road there in Vassaboro on the hill. And he actually bootstrapped this company building LP gas and oil delivery trucks. He bootstrapped this company from a 70 by 100 horse riding arena that was purchased with a 200-year-old farmhouse. My mom and him got together, and he started with $10,000, and he did everything to make that company work. And it's pretty traditional Maine story. He worked for someone else doing a thing, and he realized at some point he had a lot more to offer in doing this, and like, why can't I do this myself? Real traditional entrepreneurship. So he built that company, and that started when I was born, 1984. He started that there, and it was 100 feet from the house. Like, it was every day. So I grew up watching him do that. I watched him build that from nothing into something. So I'm very familiar with manufacturing as a whole, and it's a part of my life from the get-go. But I didn't really understand. I didn't even understand it was manufacturing as a kid. My dad built trucks and he fixed them. That's what I knew. And so in rural Maine fashion, I learned to drive, standard transmission truck, and ran a loader and backhoe and struck an arc with a MIG welder when I was 8. Like, it started early because it was right there. My father was into it. And I found out around 10 years old that my neighbors up the road, the Boatmans, the oldest daughter, got an engineering degree from the University of Maine. And I could tell you, when I was that age, like, my world was pretty small. It was as far as I could ride my bicycle, which would be 20 miles. I'd ride all the way into Augusta or all the way into Waterville. But my world was fairly small as a child. And like, I saw what my father did in building things. That's what I was interested in. But I had no idea that someone in my little town could get an engineering degree from the University of Maine, which, that inspired me. And it was from 10 years old. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the University of Maine and get an engineering degree. Middle school, junior high, middle school, all that. School was relatively easy for me, math and science. English, I was always so, pretty typical for engineering type folks. I always had a big group of friends. I played sports. I took part in bands. I played trumpet. I was in the choir. I did performing arts. I did like any of the like dance things in high school and junior high. I was kind of in everything. And, pretty healthy, well-rounded experience as far as that goes. I had a wonderful, supportive family. I had 2 loving parents and a really large extended family that were just great. But I took my first drink at 14, and started to experiment with drugs shortly after that. I coasted through high school, just doing the bare minimum, but getting C's in college level courses, on a college trajectory. And drugs and alcohol became more and more a part of my life. I can remember my junior year. I don't think I would say at the very, very conservatively, every other day I was showing up to school high. Like, it was all the time. And despite like all the normal appearance of a healthy, bright, young kid, I had this black hole basically that had opened up for me mentally, in my mental health. And it proceeded to, as it grew, consume all the good things that were in my life. It just swallowed them up, to the point that I really couldn't seem to enjoy any of them. I didn't find enough joy in them, and I was lost. I started using drugs and alcohol almost exclusively to try to escape this, which, as you could imagine, didn't work. It doesn't. And I managed to finish up high school and graduate, C's, get degrees all the way through, did the thing. And I also managed to talk my way. I had to talk my way into UMaine's MET program, particularly because my SAT score, I had a really high math and science, and I had a really low English. And I remember the dean of engineering at the time said that basically I was not smart enough to be in the ME program, and that I should look at MET. And through some conversations, I still had to convince them to let me in, just because my grades are so poor. And it happened. Mr. Dvorak, who's just retiring now, he's been around since then, back in 2002, he let me in. I got into school, and I got up here, got settled in and everything, and it came undone. It absolutely came undone. I had no control. I had no outlets. I shut down. I didn't go to class, and drugs and alcohol consumed me. And feeling completely alone and hopeless, I tried to end my life at 18, and in my dorm room. And thankfully, my roommate was able to intervene. I spent some time in Acadia, which is a psychiatric hospital up here in Bangor. I spent some time in there, and I sought professional help. And my parents did everything they could. I couldn't imagine the position that they were in. They did everything they could to try to help me. But I continued to use drugs and alcohol, trying to escape still. And it quickly led to me getting kicked off campus, arrested for OUI, and kicked out of UMaine. They said, "We don't want you back. Please don't come back for a while." And after that, I didn't really know what to do. My parents didn't know what to do. But my father said, "You got to come home for one." I mean, I was going to lose my license pretty soon. I had no way to get around, and work for me. Come home and work for me, which was challenging for a young man who was going to be on his own and get an engineering degree, and escaped his little town, and was going to start a career as an engineer. That's pretty defeating. And I just didn't really have much of a choice but to do it. So I did. And I'll tell you, it was hard. We fought every day for the longest time. I also worked with my uncle, two of my uncles for that matter. So it was like a super family thing, which was challenging. That would be challenging on its own. But then enter this kid who has just lost it, basically, and has no way to figure out where to go. But over the course of the next 4 years, sweeping floors, repairing trucks, learning to fabricate, learning to do paint and body work, learning to pipe fit, learning to wire, learning to test meters on these trucks, and doing customer service with the truck drivers that would come in, the business owners, learning about working as a team and being a part of a team and being a productive part of a team, being a son and being a nephew, working together. I found purpose. I found purpose in life. And I was still using drugs and alcohol, and I would get arrested again for OUI. But the black hole grew smaller and smaller and smaller. And I found fixing and making things, manufacturing things. Again, at this time, I still didn't really understand that I was a manufacturer or manufacturing things at this time. I just made things. That's how I always described it. I found fixing and making things filled that void. Drugs and alcohol couldn't. It couldn't compare. And I started to realize that. I soon met my wife, and shortly after, we found out we were having our first child. And it was at that point that I found another gear. Like, I was like, it's time. It's time to, put up or shut up. And so I set a goal to get sober and get my license back, so I could drive my wife and daughter home from the hospital. And with just a few weeks to spare, I accomplished that seemingly impossible goal. I just got my license back, and I was able to drive them home from the hospital, which was monumental for me. And so then it's like, what's next? Like, that was hard. I could not see how that was going to come to fruition. And after we achieved that, I'm going to say we, because it wasn't just me. It was everybody with me. I had to want to do it, but I needed support. After we did that, next, my wife and I were like, what are we going to do? We both didn't have like career trajectories or anything. And we decided both to go back to school full time. We moved to Orono, so I could finish what I started here at UMaine, putting me in a position to potentially take over the family manufacturing company, because I needed to have a degree at this point to get certain licenses because my father was grandfathered in on it. And in doing that, it's very challenging. I have a kid, going back, quitting a job, going back to school. So I worked up to 5 jobs at one time to make it all work, including driving the Zamboni at the Alphon, putting down and picking up the basketball court on the ice for all the games when they used to do all the games in the Alphon before they moved to Cross Center, and now they play in the pit. I also worked at Rose Bike Shop in town, fixing bicycles and selling bicycles. It's a bit of a passion of mine. And doing odd jobs around the neighborhood. I mean, I put roofs on houses in our neighborhood, just by asking around, anything I could, to stay busy and keep my purpose and make sure I stayed with a purpose and a goal. And also in that, I found work at the Advanced Manufacturing Center where I am today, but as a student. And I found that through my cohort of new friends, and study group that I very carefully put together when I came back to school to make sure I had a support group, or we were on the same wavelength, to be successful here in school. And some of them worked at the AMC, and they're like, "Hey, man, you should come work for us. You got a lot of skills." I mean, I was a fabricator, I was a welder. I had a lot of skills to offer. And I'll never forget. I didn't really have a resume or a cover letter at that time. I'd never formally interviewed for a job before. It's just always word of mouth, and or forced, as you know now, working for my father. And so I'll never forget. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had this wagon, this custom wagon that I built for my daughter for her first birthday. I took my wagon as a child and I made it look like a street rod because I'm a big motorsports car guy. And I built this custom wagon. It was a lot of fab work. It's pretty fancy. Actually, if you've ever been in my office, if you ever have the chance, it's actually in my office, here, along with a land speed motorcycle behind us. And I put it on the trunk of my Chevy Lumina, my 93 Chevy Lumina, and I brought it into the AMC, and I came in and I got John Belding, and I walked him out, and I said, "Here's my resume." It's like, "Look at this. I built this. This is what I'm capable of." And I never forget the look on his face. He was like, "What the heck are you doing, dude?" It's like, it was just literally ratchet strapped to the trunk of my Chevy Lumina sedan. It was super funny, but that was me. That is kind of me. That's how I do things. So he gave me a job nonetheless. And with that, I was instantly exposed to the wonderful world of manufacturing companies we have in our beautiful state. And I just could not believe the things that we make in Maine. And I was so fortunate to be a part of it, is all I could think. I was like, this is unreal. And I spent the next 4 years becoming addicted to something positive and far bigger than me. And that's Maine manufacturing. I found a home at the AMC, and with the folks within these 4 walls, it was a safe place. That's where I felt like I belonged. Everybody I ever interacted with here, as a student and everything, it was all positive. It was everything I needed at that, and then to finish. And I would graduate with a undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering technologies. I almost finished an electrical engineering technologies minor, and then I would actually go back out into industry and work for a company in Bangor called Gould Equipment. And they built and tested and fixed LP gas and oil delivery trucks and gasoline haulers, like what my father did. But it was a different company, different story on why that happened. But and eventually I'd find my way back to the AMC, though. An opening came up between Maine MEP and the AMC. They decided to partner and create a project management position here at the AMC, and I jumped at it because I wanted to work for John again. and the support that he gave me as a student, and like just I don't know, the venue, if you will, that he gave me in platform in this facility. And then also just the intriguing part of the Maine MEP program, the MEP program in general. I was excited about this, more connection with more companies in Maine, which I hungered for. So fast forward 15 years, and I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds and hundreds of students through the AMC, through different programs here on campus. I've worked with countless UMaine researchers to bring their projects to fruition. I've worked with countless Maine manufacturers, and I mean, I love them all. I would say my favorite. They're all my favorites. I was talking about this earlier with Jackie before we got started. And like, they're all my favorite, I think. And also with like a benchmark organization like Maine MEP, like I learned so much from that, from them and from that organization, like that. They really kicked my career off. I had a venue here at the AMC and an opportunity to use my skills that I had, my trade skills, my manufacturing understanding. And then Maine MEP really gave me that whole other aspect of being a professional, I guess is what you could say. I laugh a bit every time I think about the full circle I've made from almost taking my life, being kicked off campus, arrested, and kicked out of UMaine, to not only working at UMaine, but being a leader, mentor, and spokesperson for Maine manufacturing. The very thing that gave me purpose and saved my life. I have to chuckle because it comes all the way back around, and I think of it sometimes as challenge accepted, and I won. I didn't do it on my own, not by any means. So why? I talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but about how this stuff doesn't get talked about a lot. Why did I tell you this story? And I wanted to tell this story because I really think about the importance, or I really want you folks to think about the importance of what you do every day. And it's much more than getting a product out the door, which I know you're here because you're more than that, right? You're not on this call because that's all you think about when you think about your job every day. I appreciate that. But I think we can all challenge ourselves to think more about how important what we do every day is, and how important our interactions with each other are at our respective companies and with our clients, and even just in the communities that we're a part of as a whole. And I imagine the purpose, and I want you to imagine the purpose you may be giving someone in your organization who is struggling but finds safety and comfort within your four walls, just like I found it. You may never know, but I do know from experience that when you do like your Gemba walk, if you will, when you walk the floor, or even when you come through the front door every morning and you walk through the office and you say good morning to everyone and you smile and you look at them, and then when you make a point to go out on the floor and say hi to everyone and you say, how are you doing? How's the kids? Like, talk about the football game, whatever, find interests that you have in common, talk about them, smile. Really focus on the folks that are around you. And you don't have to know about the struggles, particularly that they may be having or going through, but you'd be amazed at what those little gestures alone and the opportunity to have purpose gives people. With that, I also want to point out that manufacturing is for everyone, and manufacturing is for Mainers. Everyone I don't care who you are, can be a part of the manufacturing sector. That's what makes it so grand. Is it doesn't matter if it's you're a young person and just entering the workforce, no different than myself, could be on better terms, but just a young person getting a first job. There's a place for them in manufacturing, all the way to grandparents failing at retirement. There's a place for those folks in manufacturing. Steve actually saw that when we're at Xuron taking that tour together. There's quite a few folks there that work part time because they want something to do during the week, and they come in and they talk to each other, and the health, their health, that interaction and coming in and seeing people talking, doing something still with your hands, feeling like you have a purpose. It's amazing what that does. And all the way to, of course, the engineers, right? The engineers and folks with MBAs. And then one of my favorite ones is a colleague. His nickname was Kaizen Bob, but Bob Dwyer in Maine MEP, he's retired now. But he was a zoology major, and he ended up in manufacturing almost immediately after school and had a lengthy career in it. And the idea, Maine has over 1,700 manufacturing companies. 99% of them are under 500 employees. And we manufacture everything from spacecraft heat shields and rocket nozzles, chocolate bars and tofu, heirloom axes and oars, blueberry pies and gin, hand tools and cordage, tiny homes and cat toys, snow shovels and trade show booze, battleships and ballistic panels. And it goes on and on and on. The mills that used to line the rivers here in the Maine, they may be gone, but the tradition of making things and improving our quality of life, and in my case, saving it, has not gone. And the purpose of me sharing this story is I just want you folks to really think about the value that you add to the people that work for you, to the communities you live in, to the state of Maine every day. And don't take it for granted. Give yourself grace and dig in. Find another gear. That's it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I realize that no matter how many times you tell a story like that, it's a little bit difficult every time.
Yeah.
But totally think that that's the essence of what I wanted Shop Talk to be when we started this, is just an opportunity to share really about the people behind the products in manufacturing in ways that you aren't able to at a conference or at a training. And you definitely did that. So I really appreciate it for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
I think a lot of the times we think about the products in terms of manufacturing, but not as much the people, and kind of how maybe it is their passion to make tofu or a little part that goes into a bench or something like that. It's more than just the product. It's someone's actual passion, and the fact, like you said, that they're doing something with their two hands that gives them purpose, and going into the factory or an office every day and saying hi to Bill or Tom or whoever it is, and really making a difference. It's a huge community. And that's something, at least for my company, Big Room, when we got involved in manufacturing, that really surprised me in a good way, is just how established and strong the community was in Maine. I was not expecting that at all. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts to ask or share with the group?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for sharing your story for us. It's amazing and inspiring to see how far you've come. And I mean, I didn't know your background that well. I knew you had lived in Vassalboro, but I'm inspired every time I do anything with Forest, whether it's a tour or tour of a company, or going up to UMaine to see what they're up to, their capabilities and technologies. So I've gone on two of these factory tours. We went to Holy Donut, which I'm still trying to work off the calories from that trip. And then I think we also went to the rope company, which now
Sterling Rope.
Sterling Rope, yeah. But I've also been up there and had a chance to see the new bot lab, and I got to weld a advanced manufacturing sign with the robotic laser welder. That was very cool. So if you guys haven't had a chance to go up there, definitely try to get up there and see their facility and the sister facility, the Advanced Materials Wood Innovation Center next door.
Jackie's got her brother works there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The world's largest 3D printer, 3D printed house. They're, I think, doubling the size of the building with a new industrial addition. And just real quick, just to introduce myself a little bit more, I'm not a manufacturer, but I work for the state government, and we sure do our best to support manufacturing in the state, all over the state. Forrest alluded to the challenges of some of the heritage industries, the closed mill sites. So I do a lot of work with the redevelopment, our department itself, and with the Maine Department of Economic Community Development. So we're all about, bringing prosperity around the state, supporting businesses, lifting the economy. We provide what we call resource navigation, so we can help companies with all kinds of issues or challenges that state government might be able to help them focus on. Workforce training, hiring, finance, tax incentives, site selection, marketing, even we can connect to permitting. We don't do all that stuff, but we know who to connect you with. So always happy to meet with folks, and I really appreciate the opportunity to participate in this. I think I had spoken with Jackie and another person recently, and so I'm glad I was able to participate, and I'll try to keep coming to these meetings when I can.
Definitely. Thank you. And thank you for coming.
Forrest, I got a couple for you.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, first off, just want to thank you. I appreciate the story and kind of, you opened up your heart a little bit there. So I appreciate that. I know that's not necessarily easy to do. Two things I think we probably don't talk enough about in manufacturing are, one, I'll call it mental health. It's a global encompassing picture there. And two, I'd say, I'll call it industrial psychology of what does it really mean in manufacturing to have employee engagement, to build a sense of community in manufacturing that employees want to show up to every day. And I know when I've gone on these tours with you, I haven't thought about that being on the forefront of your mind, but the way you engage with all the folks in the shop, it seems you walk in, it seems like Forrest has known everyone for years, and you're very well welcomed in the shop there. How do you think we go turn some of the tides on that, so those are things that, A, we're focused on and addressing in manufacturing?
Oh,
it's a loaded question, but
that's I love it. I absolutely love it. That is a great question. And yeah, that's the type of question that, taking a little risk myself, telling the whole story, which I have never told that all the way through for anybody at all. Not even, some close folks, still just in pieces. I've never told it all the way through. And the point was exactly the question that you just asked, is to have that type of thought or that type of conversation. So I think, and I was having a one-on-one with a student this morning. We have biweekly one-on-ones with our students, just like I do with my staff, and then We have monthly one-on-ones with John, my boss, John, and and the point of those is to bring folks, while we still do it in the office, we close the door and it's like, this is not to talk about projects particularly. This is to talk about anything that you want. You got ideas or whatever it is. Let's just talk and give someone an open forum to have that conversation. And when I was talking with him, he pointed out those things to me. He pointed out the types of interactions that he thought added the most value to his experience. And I was able to also reciprocate to him very honestly or very candidly about how I've observed him do the same exact thing. And I wasn't sure if he realized what he was doing. I wasn't sure if he was really self-aware of how well he is at building team, managing conflict, and getting engagement from folks who are disengaged. And I gave him the kudos. It's like, dude, you do a great job. Like, I am impressed. I watch you and I find great value and enjoyment out of watching you work. And I want you to know that. And I want you to be aware of it. And the quality of the experience that you give your colleagues. And then also, by you doing that, what example do you set? So that's a real micro moment of talking about it. But how do we address it all together? I don't have the answer for that. But I do think that a lot of manufacturing, there's a lot of engineers in there. And a lot of engineers are fairly introverted, and they are challenged. Young specifically. A lot of us learn through experience, if we allow ourselves to learn through experience. Sometimes we can get in our own ways, but they're introverted and they don't manage conflict very well. So when I'm having these conversations, just like I was this morning, I talk a lot about perspective and perception. And sometimes I will go so far as to grab an object and throw it on the floor somewhere between us, but in a manner that we both have a different perspective of the thing. And now our different perspectives, they are different, but they're both right, because we're both looking at the same thing, but we're looking at it from a different way. And my perception of their perspective is not always right. And we have to take more effort in really trying to understand someone else's perspective, to learn how to communicate in an effective way with everybody around us, especially the folks we have to work with. And that's a skill. There's very few people that just possess that. There are folks that do. They absolutely do. But they got through that through experiences. They learned it from somebody. They had great examples that they learned it from. And they may not know it, just like this young man I was talking to this morning. I don't think he did after we talked about it. He's like, yeah, I learned a lot from Jim. Jim is the owner of Rose's Bike Shop. I learned a lot from Jim in working with him. So I think there has to be a champion in every group. There has to be a champion in every company, in every group that is going to that is going to make a real effort that's obvious to everyone. Everyone has to see it. It has to be consistent, and it has to be consistent. It has to be clearly communicated that they're making an effort to really bring a team together and give that team tools, not like they're carrying the team, but they're making an effort to give the entire team tools to be able to communicate more effectively. I come back to, I feel like a broken record a lot of times. It's like, it all comes back to communication, and how effectively we communicate with each other. Something that, and I'm going a little bit long-winded here, but something that I felt really helped me was, well, first and foremost, working in basically a truck garage for 7 years, dealing with all walks of life, truck drivers, company owners, those folks can be some tough folks, and learning how to make success in those, or create success and create respect and trust in those situations was very challenging. So I had a little bit of a head start on that, but I didn't really have this methodology, like a real laid out methodology to it. And something that, again, Maine MEPs, I hold them as my professional trainer. They trained me professionally over the last decade, and we did Dale Carnegie. It was the first one I did was called a business enterprise training, and it was a mix of leadership and sales training. And man alive, was I pumped. Every day that we did that for like 3 days, everything we talked about, it was David Stearns that led that training. Everything we talked about, it clicked with things that I do. I could organize it all. It gave me a method to the madness that I was trying to do, but I was doing it inconsistently. And that's the key. Everything is consistency. Manufacturing is consistency, quality control. If you're inconsistent, it doesn't matter if you're good yesterday, if you're bad today. And we all have to accept failure. It's what we do with failure, right? And that's the giving grace. We're not perfect. But man, it gave me the tools to really dig in and stretch my skills in communication and building relationships, building trust and respect. And I absolutely loved it. And I've done the leadership training last year? John Belding and I did the leadership training with Rob. I forget Rob's last name, but not with David, but with Rob. And I think it's an invaluable experience. It really is. It gives people tools. But you have to want it, though. That's the thing. You have to really be invested in it. And I can tell people that aren't, because, and that's okay. They're just not there, right? They're just not there yet. But I can usually tell people that aren't invested in it, I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes you can just tell they're just not ready for it. They see the tools as hokey or whatever, but it's like, some of the stuff is a little silly sounding. But if you really think about the purpose of it, it is genuine. It's authentic. And that's the key, is being genuine and authentic and sincere. They actually use the term sincere in the training. Long answer. I don't know if it really was an answer.
It was a good answer. I appreciate it. Thank you, Forrest.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything for Forrest or otherwise? Well, I want to thank you very much again, Forrest. Really appreciated hearing what you had to say. If everyone is good, I think we can call it for this month. If you have any questions or comments from Forrest, you can reach out in the Slack channel. You can always reach out to anybody who's in there with questions, comments, anything like that. Otherwise, I hope to see you all next month.
Excellent. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, everybody. So much. Good to see everybody. Yep.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
See ya. Have a good one.